There's a famous yoga saying that you don't find yoga, yoga finds you when you're ready for it. And I think that was true for me, and it's true for lots of people. The majority of people middle-aged or above who go to yoga classes, it's because something's happened in their life. Something traumatic or very emotionally draining or difficult has happened. And in my case, I had a sort of rather classic midlife crisis. My long-term relationship with my partner broke up, and I was feeling a little bit not sure about my place in the world and what I was doing. And I went along to my first class, and I thought it was great. I felt very out of place, to be honest. I was 10, 20 years older than almost anyone else in the room, and a different sex. It actually was an important part in stabilizing my life at a time of turmoil. It only took me 2 or 3 years to think I'd really like to teach this. You know, I'd like to give it back to other people. Yoga philosophy does have certain things that they're called the yamas and the niyamas, and it's the philosophical basis of yoga. They have 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. And to be honest, they're a little bit like the 10 Commandments. So the first one is ahimsa, which is non-violence, and I believe in that. The second one is satya, which is truth, telling the truth. I believe in that. So those values imbue what I think about yoga. Yoga for me is about being mindful, but also being active and seeing myself as having duties, responsibilities to society as a whole. Lots of the values of yoga are about sustainability, for example. And I've always been ecologically conscious, and I think yoga should be social, it should be community, it should be collective. For me, yoga to make me personally better is not what I'm interested in. Yoga to make everybody feel better, yoga to make people feel more able to intervene and to interact in society and within communities rather than being excluded from them by what's happened to them. The people who need yoga the most are the people who don't have access to it. I mean, I'm affluent, middle class, white man. It's easy for me to pay to go to a yoga class. So how do we get yoga to people who can't afford it, to people who think it's not for them? That's what the goal of our foundation is to take yoga to the people who need it the most, which frankly is not you or me or most of the people in the existing yoga community. I'd been selected by the Green Party to stand in Brighton, Kemp Town for the 2015 election. I was selected in 2013, and there was no chance of me winning. So it wasn't a question of trying to do the normal traditional canvassing and knocking on doors. And I investigated, and I found out to my surprise that I was the first yoga teacher in this country ever to stand for Parliament. So I thought, well, that's funny. Let's rope the yoga community into this. Yoga community is quite green in its outlook, quite sustainable, quite radical. We organised a group of us, and we decided to have the first yoga festival. So it was linked very much to my politics originally. And to our surprise, 1,200 people showed up. It was exhausting, you know, we put the whole thing on, and then we sort of collapsed afterwards. And then we started getting the emails from people saying, when's then the one next year? So we just took it for an air. We've had 6 yoga festivals now. And at the first yoga festival, we raised money for the Unemployed Centre in Brighton. The second one, we raised money for a young homeless project in the city to provide a yoga class. And we thought, well, why don't we become a charity and just raise money generally for all these sorts of projects? So we did. And we put on free classes. We do yoga for the police in Brighton. We've done yoga for mental health courses. We run yoga in schools. We do work with organisations like Rise and Survivors Network, who refer women who've been subject to domestic or sexual violence. I'm sure you know about the sorts of traumas that can lead to. And so they're very unconfident in their bodies. They've often disconnected their brain from their bodies. And so they need a specialist type of class. They're not going to come to a class with me as a male yoga teacher. And they're not going to go to a class in the centre of town where they don't know who's in it. But they might go to one at a venue provided by Rise or Survivors Network with a woman teacher who's been specifically trained. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and it's very satisfying. In politics, you don't tend to see a lot of outcome from what you do, but in this, you see it. We've had people say things like, this has transformed my life. You know, I now feel like I can go out again and I can interact in the world again. This is powerful stuff. And so it keeps me going.